Winchester. I am informed that we have a quorum. The Winchester Town Meeting will now be in order. If you have your V-Voter clickers, why don't we take a quick roll call digitally so we make sure everything's working. I want to thank the clerk and the IT teams that have helped us clear up some of the issues that we had last year. Knock on wood, everything's working right now. We have tested. We're ready to go. So you want to turn the green light on for 30 seconds? Oh, yeah. Okay, so it looks like V-Voter is working. Tonight we have the honor of being joined by members of the Daisy Troop 84210 and Brownie Troop 64388 from Vincent Owen School. They are led by Winchester High School Girls Scout Troop 77026 and McCall Middle School Troop 77025. They will present the colors and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Welcome town meeting members and honored guests. We will now begin. Color guard attention. Color guards advance. Color guards put the colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Town Meeting Moderator Philip Farrelly.
Thank you very much. This year, our nation celebrates the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Keep walking.
Massachusetts town meetings were foundational influence on the Declaration. It was in town meeting houses in every Massachusetts village and town the fundamentals of liberty were instilled in the populace and a practical mechanism for building the political consensus required to separate from the crown advanced. When Parliament passed the Massachusetts Government Act in 1774, one of the so-called intolerable acts, the ban on town meeting was taken as a direct assault on liberty itself. In response, Massachusetts town meetings barred their doors against British soldiers and continued to meet, enumerating grievances that would soon echo in Philadelphia. Nearly 60 Massachusetts towns debated the question of independence in the first half of 1776. Some issued declarations of their own, statements that inspired the principles and phrases soon adopted in the Declaration. The Massachusetts delegation to the Constitutional Congress, John Adams, Robert Payne, Samuel Adams, and John Hancock, himself a town moderator, understood these directives as the legal and moral consent of the governed that authorized them to sign. The defiance of Massachusetts town meetings in 1774 organized the militias that took the fields at Lexington and Concord in 1775, emboldened the founding of our nation in 1776, a powerful reminder of what can happen when neighbors come together for the common good. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this moment to recognize 3 outstanding members of our community that we have lost since our fall town meeting. Officer Kevin Mon was the son of Winchester, a member of the Winchester High School class of 1961. He served in the Army National Guard and served this community for 35 years as a police officer. Unfortunately, you can't see the picture of him right now, but he was a mountain of a man, a mythical figure for all those who grew up in this town in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and prevented quite a few people who grew up in town during that time from pursuing a life in crime. The 2003 Citizen of the Year. The second member of our community we lost was John Lane. He was a member of the Winchester High School class of 1962. He served in the United States Air Force. Following his time in the armed services, John became the third generation of his family to serve this community by running Lane Funeral Home. He spent 50 years running that important community institution and was a pillar of Winchester's business community. The last one, Bob Johnson, was born in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and lived in 4 states before moving to Winchester in 1974. He was elected to this town meeting in 1981 and served for 43 years with near perfect attendance. A resident of Edward Drive, Mr. Johnson was instrumental in the effort to save Right Lock Farm from development. From 2007 to 2024, Bob volunteered on the farm, mowing the grass, plowing the snow, serving on the board, and performing countless other jobs to help the farm succeed. The contributions of each of these men made to this town will endure. Please join me in a moment of silence. It is now my honor to swear in the new members and re-elected members of town meeting. Will you please rise? I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties of the office to which I have been elected in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Charter and the bylaws of the town of Winchester. Thank you and congratulations. Before we begin our agenda, I want to take a moment to recognize Mark Toogood, who retired this year after serving the town of Winchester for 44 years. Mark came to Winchester in 1982 at the Department of Public Works. He quickly became the assistant town manager, a position he would hold under 7 town managers, 4 town moderators, and more than 25 select board chairs. Mark was instrumental in so many things. He was a tireless worker and accessible and available virtually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The town benefited greatly from his integrity and diligence. I'm forever grateful for the wisdom and patience he shared with me to prepare me for this role last year. For his decades of service to the town, we all owe him a deep debt of gratitude. Before we begin our agenda tonight, I would like to do a quick overview of what we're going to be doing. After hearing from town boards and committees, we'll be taking a break to conduct precinct meetings in accordance with our bylaws. Our business tonight will vary from bylaws to solar arrays to capital, and if time allows, we hope to complete the capital planning report and associated articles. We begin all town meetings with 7 preliminary motions, and a series of motions are currently placed on the consent agenda. Please see page 1 of the motion book. Well, we need to make sure we can protect that right now. It is moved and seconded that the following preliminary motions be voted as one. That Christopher Senior, Town Manager, Stacy Ward, Comptroller, and Town Council, or their designee who are not town meeting members be permitted to sit at the front of the auditorium with the Select Board during all sessions of this town meeting. That all members of the Finance Committee and their secretary, whether town meeting members or not, be permitted to sit together at the front of the auditorium during all sessions of this town meeting. That the town clerk or her designee or the assistant town clerk be permitted to occupy a desk on the platform during all sessions of this town meeting. Number 4, that the moderator be authorized to permit members of the various town boards, commissions, committees, department heads, and petitioners of special articles to sit at the front of the auditorium during consideration of appropriate articles. Number 5, unless it be otherwise ordered, all adjourned sessions of this town meeting shall be held on successive Monday and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. at the Winchester High School auditorium until the work town meeting is completed. Number 6, that the action on all motions involving appropriations shall be contingent upon compliance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, a law known as Proposition 2.5. Number 7, the cable television coverage shall be permitted at all sessions of this town meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The motion carries. We'll switch now to the consent agenda. Just want to make note of a Scrivener's error on Article 18. The tally on Article 18 is correct. The number in the motion should say $848,451.07. If there are any town meeting members who wish to object to this article's inclusion in the consent agenda, please let me know.
The consent agenda has a typo. It says 25 in the book. It should say 26.
Also informed that there is a typo that it says 25 in the agenda. It should say 26.
Correct. You are voting the consent agenda for 26.
It is moved and seconded that the 2026 Springtown meeting advance for consideration Articles 2, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 20, 24, 26, 32, 36, and 37, and take action on such articles without debate on any such articles with the specified motions as set forth in this motion book, provided that upon the request of 5 voters at this meeting made before the vote is taken on this motion, or otherwise at the moderator's discretion, an article shall be removed from the consent agenda and shall be acted upon in the ordinary course of business at this town meeting. 2/3 is required for this vote. Mr. Nixon?
Moderator, you listed Article 26. That's not listed for consent. There would be a brief presentation on it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't include it.
No. I mean the year. The year. It says moved and seconded that 2026 Springtown meeting. Sorry, folks.
The year 2026. We're going to hear Article 26 as originally called for. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries by a 2/3 majority. We'll move now to Article 1. Okay, so now we're gonna switch to the podium input. Who's speaking? Article 1 is to hear and act upon the reports of town officials, boards, committees, and commissions, or to take any other action in relation to. Our first presentation tonight is from the Chair of the Select Board, Ms. Anthea Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, town meeting members, and welcome new members. Sorry. I'm Anthea Brady, Chair of the Select Board. I'm joined by my colleagues Bill McGonigal, Vice Chair, Mike Betancourt, Michelle Pryor, and Paris Bayani. We come before you every spring and fall town meeting, and when we were last here, you could say we were full of potential. First, our new town council was about to start. Karis North of Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane. Karis is an experienced town council who works with similar municipalities across Massachusetts who face the same budget and policy challenges and have at times had, dare I say it, even more complex town meetings than Winchester. Although rumor has it Arlington has 100 articles at their Springtown meeting. Consider ourselves lucky, right? We're pleased to have Karis and her team on board, and I'm sure you'll hear from them later in this town meeting. Second, in November, we had an interim town manager at the front with us, and we're just at the start of a search process for our new town manager. We were pleased to have Chris Sr. join us in January of this year. I encourage you to say hi to Chris here or if you see him at Town Hall. And if you see him at Town Hall, you may even run into Kayla, who during tense meetings doubles as the Select Board's therapy dog. Third, as you're aware, the Select Board, School Committee, members of the Finance Committee, Planning Board, and Capital Planning members and residents, totaling 25 of us, spent considerable time on the State of the Town Committee, addressing revenue options, cost drivers, and other tools for making the most efficient use of our budget. That committee published a report of recommendations and strategies, and the Select Board voted unanimously to put an $11.5 million override on the March town election ballot. That vote failed. Since the election, the board has been working with the town manager and comptroller, with the school committee and superintendent, and with the finance committee to balance the budget with a limited use of free cash that maintains as many services and supports in the town as possible. The failure of the override, however, still means that we must use free cash to balance the budget, coming from the current free cash balance. Ultimately, trade-offs need to be made, which include reductions in force in the Winchester Public Schools, minor increases to class sizes in grades K to 6, removal of the elementary math specialist positions. There are also hiring freezes, including in seasonal DPW workers, who, if we remember some summer storms, are often among the first cleaning up after those storms. Municipalities across the Commonwealth are facing similar fiscal challenges. Increases to employee health care costs are a major driver of increases to municipal budgets. This impacts private employers too. I'm sure many of you, like my family, have had plan changes and increased co-pays from the start of this year. So most recently, our neighbors or near neighbor communities northwest of Boston look for operating overrides to manage their budgets. Arlington had a $14.8 million override, which passed. Linfield, $4.6 million, which passed. Melrose, $13.5 million, which passed on their second try. Natick, $7 million, and Stoneham, $9.3 million, which also passed on the second try. Malden had a recent override vote which failed for $8.2 million. And Brookline might sum up to the total dollar amounts of these other communities, has a ballot question on May 5th for $23.25 million for operating override. It's not only these 7 neighboring communities, but 37 other cities and towns across the state. Including us, that makes 45. That's over 12% of Massachusetts communities who sought operating overrides just for fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27. This problem isn't isolated to Winchester, and it isn't a result of poor fiscal management or ballooning services. It's the cost of managing an organization that isn't driven by profit and is required to balance its budget every year. The Select Board will be doing some outreach to gain feedback on the March override question, and we encourage you to keep an ear out for survey or other questions coming your way, and ask your friends and neighbors to share their thoughts when the time comes. In light of all that, though, I'll preview the town meeting articles that the Select Board is sponsoring or co-sponsoring. It's excluding the consent agenda articles. Many of these articles are designed, as you'll see on the top, to increase revenues or decrease costs. Some are cost neutral. They don't have a cost to us in moving forward at town meeting or implementing, and some use free cash. So starting from the beginning with Article 4, which you'll hear on Thursday, we have the Human Rights Commission, and that's a cost neutral, but it's designed to improve outcomes for the community. We also have the local occupancy tax and the water and sewer rates, which you'll hear about tonight, which is designed to increase your revenues. Shifting to this money from the free cash balance to the general stabilization fund in support of our fiscal policies and AAA bond rating. Appropriating money for solar panels, which both helps to improve outcomes from an energy use and efficiency, but also has a cost savings year over year on our energy bills. The demolition of the carriage house, co-sponsored with schools and Capital, and the implementation of a K-5 literacy curriculum, co-sponsored with the schools, which, while it uses free cash, is really designed to improve outcomes for the earliest learners. And then an article surrounding the EFPBC membership designed to help the school committee come into compliance with MSBA as they move forward the Morocco school feasibility. So thank you very much for your time these next few nights. I hope we will still have some of your attention on Thursday during the Celtics playoff game. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now, on behalf of the Finance Committee, it's Chairman Derek Ross.
Yeah, sure. You were PowerPoint. All right. All right. How to boil 100 hours into 5 minutes. I am Derek Ross. I'm the FinCon chair and 14 amazing volunteers to my left. It's been a very interesting year. Not much happening financially. I think I had to admit to my CEO today that I've spent more time on this budget than the company I am CFO for. I'm going to start, as many know me, I'm a half full person, so the good. So despite what you read on Facebook, things are okay. We are on track as a town to meet and or exceed our operating budget for 2026 that we set last spring. We're on track maybe even to break even or come pretty close. And I think there's much credit to be passed around, but the town does a good job of taking what we agree here and executing the best we can on it. The bad, we continue to have a structural deficit and it was growing unsustainable. I'll talk more about this next Monday, but a lot of good effort has been made to bend the cost curve. And unfortunately, the gap widens every year as prices go up, insurance goes up, and without new funding and or more reductions, we will continue to struggle with this. Kind of wanted to do just a quick demystifying of the budgeting process. It actually started, I think, about 3 weeks after we agreed on the spring budget last year. We got together at the State of the Town, and we met over the course of the summer, through the fall, through the winter. And I have to say it was a very enlightening process for everyone involved. So as Finance Committee, we kind of lived through the numbers in a detail that not many others do. And it was great to, across the community, across the committees, for everyone to get together and truly understand the good, bad, and the ugly of our budget. And so it kind of made, in some respects, this budget a little easier than most. We also, for the last couple of years, there have been many motions to maybe disband us or change us. But kind of the clear messaging was that we wanted everyone to work a little bit better together. So I have to say, at least my time on FinCom over the last several years, I think we work together across the committees better than we ever have. So schools, Dr. Hackett and the school committee worked very closely throughout the year and put forward together a pretty courageous plan to curb the spending curve as well, which we'll talk about in more detail. We have a new town manager that brings with, it's been great to work with Chris. He brings a lot of experience, and even in his short time here has really helped out. We meet often as well with Stacy, who's an amazing comp controller, and to be honest, the performance of the town is really, especially this year where we had a lot of transition to be where we are. We're very lucky to have her, and she is often bothered by me always asking, where are we? The department heads also do have done a great job this year. They really went through all their budgets, sharpened their pencils, and really identified some areas for which, we could help bring our financial situation where we are into a little bit better light. And then lastly, the select board, which has done a decent job too. No, but it's been great to work with them. They've been really involved. No, just kidding. In terms of, I would say in the past maybe we disagreed or didn't communicate clearly enough, and I think over the past year, everyone on the board has really leaned in, and I think we've done a good job of working through a very tough situation. And then lastly, FinCom, my colleagues in FinCom. It's funny, there's always been complaints that we have maybe one mindset, but if you ever came to one of our meetings, especially this year, we have a lot of different opinions, and to be honest, the hardest negotiations that I've had to do is actually with my own committee this year. And it's good. They come at it from all angles. Everyone kind of challenges everything. And it's good to have difference of opinions, and it's okay not to agree on everything. So all in all, kind of where are we? Next slide. I think actually we're in not bad shape. So we have roughly $171 million budget, and we're still working through, as we speak, about $900K. So we're 99.5% in alignment. The expectations over the next, I'm hoping to have full alignment by next Monday, but to be honest, I think we're all directionally in the right place. And, we are really working up, these are hard decisions. To be honest, no one really likes kind of the position that we're in, but we're having to make the best of it, and that's what we've been, appointed to do. So with that said, we're working through the week. I'd like to waive the 7-day rule. We should be finalized hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, at worst on Wednesday, but I'd still like to present on Monday. And then I leave with one cheat sheet for town meeting. So here is my cheat sheet. So at the moment, Stacy can validate, we're kind of around 21 million, 20-ish million in free cash. I put what is called a reserve floor, which is about 10 million, which is kind of a working, if you go below this floor, it potentially could affect our borrowing. And so we use that kind of as a good number to look at as the floor. So our real free cash reserve is around 11 million. I'm going to give you a hint that I'm going to use at least 3 million of cash for next Monday. I know also we have about $1 million that we're going to vote on that we've already spent on certain things, but of course you can always approve or not. And so just to remember this sheet when we go through everything, be prudent on what we use and make sure it's something we definitely need and need it now. And so with this, that is my gift.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Ross.
everyone.
Can I ask for another gift for you? Can someone send you a picture of Winchester to include in your...
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm sure you'll get some beautiful...
For copyright reasons, I didn't want to use it for... Yes.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the school committee, Dr. Timothy Matthews.
Did you have a PowerPoint?
Where is that?
No, that's a town manager. For this side? I don't remember.
It kind of looks like Florence and New Hampshire at the same time.
Yes. This is Article 1. Is that the one you gave me in the Google Drive?
No.
I sent you the PowerPoint.
That was the other lady.
Do you want, can we have Chris go first, and then we'll get that?
Yeah, Tim Matthews sent today.
Mr. Manager? Well, we're going to hear from Chris Senior, our new town manager, and then we'll come back to the school committee.
Right. And then back.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead. Look at that. Thank you, everybody. It's a real privilege for me to stand in front of the Winchester Town Meeting tonight for the opening evening of the 2026 spring session. Having had the opportunity to take part in 22 town meetings in Cohasset and the special meeting here in Winchester back in February, it's always a high point for me in the democratic process that goes back to 400 years here in Massachusetts and 175 right here in Winchester. It's a celebration of local government. It's a great set of conversations that will take place over the next few nights, and it's going to determine Winchester's direction for this year and the years to come. So one of the things that happens when you start is you're on board, and this is my 15th week in Winchester. I got to tell you, talking about dogs, I feel like I'm aging in dog years or dog weeks. I've spent a lot of time during this 15 weeks meeting staff, touring facilities, attending and taking part in board and committee meetings, and meeting with community organizations, including touring the Jenks Center, visiting police and fire departments, getting a behind-the-scenes look at the transfer station, learning about the upcoming ENCA Fair, joining the spring lunch and honoree announcement of the Chamber of Commerce, and meeting with the Town Meeting Member Association on a very cold day in February, and joining their orientation at the library for new meeting members. And that was all my first week. So, no, it's been a couple more weeks than that. I'm looking forward to many more meetings, tours, and conversations over the months ahead. Winchester has an amazing group of volunteers and a tremendous staff. It's been exciting to work with, and I'm looking forward to many, many months and many, many months ahead for all of the ongoing conversations that we'll have. Now, one of the most important things I'm working on, as you can understand, is budget and town finances, even in the limited window I've been here. Winchester has a great financial team. I've been tremendously excited with Stacy and with Ann and all the folks in their offices. I've been meeting with the comptroller and treasurer collector on a weekly basis just to stay fully engaged in everything we're doing. I'm pleased to report Moody's affirmed Winchester's AAA bond rating in February, highlighting the town's strong fiscal foundation and fiscal management. I'm also pleased to report that Winchester's received some $400,000 on the municipal side alone in grants this year. That includes money for the asset management, the water department, all kinds of great investments in energy efficiency, including work at McCall and the Mystic Schools, and also money in the recreation program itself. Staff have also been in regular contact all spring with our legislative delegations at the federal and state levels, looking for earmarks. We're hoping that we'll get some of those results later this spring, but that's part of the ongoing conversations. We're particularly focused on transportation, environmental assistance, and education this year. So the most important board I work with, obviously, the select board that hired me. I'm with them on a regular basis, and we've had the opportunity to collaborate on a whole lot of issues since I've started in January. We've established some key objectives for me and working on a number of specific action items under each of these goals. And I'm looking forward to working with the board to set broad goals and objectives for FY27 and beyond when we meet as a group at Wrightlock Farm in June to do an off-site onboarding session for all of us for FY27. And I want to thank every member of the board for the support and encouragement they've given me since January. I know it's been a whirlwind. I think I've been on they all have me on speed dial at this point, and I have them equally. So, but it's been a great opportunity, and I'm really enjoying the work here. Now, you're going to hear a lot more, obviously, next week, and Derek's giving you a highlight, but I just want to touch on a few things with FY27. One of the key priorities the select board has set is finding non-property tax revenue, and that's what we've been doing. So in my first 6 or 7 weeks, we had the building department come in, and we were able to tweak fees. I got to give Tom and his team a great deal of credit for all their work on that, and also the work that came this last year. So all of this work builds on work that's been going on. So we're just taking things on and over the finish line on some of these things, and these building fees are part of that. It brings the town into parity with our neighbors, and it could generate at least $200,000 next year, and that's real money. We've been looking at the transfer station, and it's about cost. It's about cost recovery. It's not just about fee increases. It's making sure that we're covering our costs. Now, with parking, some of the fees and fines have not been adjusted in 20 years. And you look at some of the penalties, I think people are more than happy to write a ticket than actually pay for a permit. And that shouldn't be the way it works. Penalties should dissuade people. They shouldn't be an easy way to get out of doing something else. So those are ongoing conversations. But as part of this has also been real reductions, and there'll be more talk about this. But there's been roughly $1 million between the town municipal side and the undesignated side. And that includes hiring freezes in the fire department and DPW, the elimination of seasonal workers at DPW, which is going to have an impact on the work they do in the summer, particularly in mowing grass and doing some of the cleanups. We've cut one of the police cruisers out of the budget that was planned, and they go all the time, so they wear down, and we're going to go with one less this year. But cuts to library materials and supplies, and also a cut in the recreation subsidy. Now, none of this means layoffs of any existing employees, but it does mean freezes. And it's going to have an impact as we move into the year. Now, we'll see what happens with retirements for next year, but we can't not respond to a call, and we can't not plow a road in the wintertime. So these will have real impacts. It has been a really busy 2026. This has been a winter to remember for everybody. And I want to say thank you to the DPW staff and all the town staff who are out there keeping us safe. So I really want to just take a second and thank DPW and all those folks for the hard work. I went down after the first snowstorm and thanked them, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm thanking you. You all worked incredibly hard," and they really did. I mean, they're out there getting the plows back ready, and a lot of it goes unrecognized. People complain when things are missed. I think we should all remember the work they do all the time just to keep things going. And there was all kinds of work behind the scenes to make sure the buildings were maintained. Remember, it got really cold, so there was a lot of work being done to make sure that the schools were safe and the town buildings were safe, that there weren't leaks, there weren't freeze-ups, and it was very successful. I want to thank, again, I'll give a kudos. Mark was very instrumental in my first few months here, and I want to thank him for all the work he did. I particularly want to thank Jen, who gets all the credit for the good things in this presentation. She made all the things work, and Patty for all her tremendous work and assistance. And I want to thank all of you. May I ask a show of hands? How many of you, in addition to being in town meeting, serve on another board or committee? How many serve on 2 other boards and committees? How many serve on 3 or more other boards and committees? So you always hear about, people double dipping and triple dipping. I got to tell you, the double dipping in this case is tremendously valuable. So give yourselves a round of applause. I want to thank all of you because this is the volunteer work that makes this place go. So as I wrap up, I won't say the town meeting is a carnival. Hopefully it's a fun house and not a more exciting ride. But with the end fair coming up, I figured we'd end with this. I want to thank all of you. I think it's going to be a great few nights. It's a lot of conversations to come, and looking forward to the rest of town meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. It's beautiful photography, very local. It's my honor to introduce Dr. Matthews from the school committee.
I have to download it. 1 second, please. That's not it. Down there, sorry.
Article 1.
Yep, thank you. Let's pull it out. No, hold on, it's gonna. I had to wait for it to open, sorry.
I could do that. I've been hearing about it at home.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Right, we'll go forward.
Thanks so much. All right, good evening. Wow, good evening, everybody. I'm so thrilled to actually have slides to present from this year for those of you who were here last spring. My name is Tim Matthews. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. I am thrilled to serve this year as chair of the Winchester School Committee. I want to begin by acknowledging where we are tonight. This is not the presentation that we expected to be giving this spring. After more than a year of work and a very close vote, as some of the other speakers have said, All of our town boards and committees are now operating in a different reality, and that reality is one that carries real consequences for our students and educators. And so tonight, as the representative of the school committee, I believe that my responsibility is to provide some clarity. Clarity about where we are, clarity about what has changed, and clarity about what all this means moving forward. So to just quickly set the stage, I will do 4 things tonight. Ground us in our mission and what we owe to students, review where our student outcomes stand, summarize the progress we made this year, and then walk through where we are at, given the compressed time frame since the Springtown election with the FY27 budget, as well as its implications. I want to note before I leave this slide that there are other presentations you'll be hearing from either myself or other representatives of the school committee. Article 16 around solar panels, 25 around carriage house demolition funding, 27 the feasibility study funding for Morocco Elementary, and 28 for elementary literacy implementation. Those are not topics I anticipate covering in detail tonight. So just to get started and put some context, here's where we're at. The Winchester Public Schools need to continue to meet the needs of every learner, regardless of our budget situation. All of the leaders, both staff as well as board members, work to align the district with the values that were voted as expressions in our mission and vision statements. For those of you who did not hear our prior presentation in the fall, this committee actually this past summer and fall voted a new vision statement, the highlights of which you'll see here. And really our goal is to have a thriving and inclusive community all the way from pre-K to 12, where our students belong and are empowered to achieve their full potential. That means making sure that we focus on academic excellence, as well as making sure that they have healthy conditions for social emotional development in school. If we look just briefly at the assessment results that the district has, we are very much needing to look at how student needs have changed over the past 6 years. The post-pandemic impacts that we experienced, especially in literacy, are real. And our legal obligation to all of our students is to provide a free and appropriate education. But this community in Winchester has always expected more than the bare minimum of compliance. And regardless of our budget situation, we should continue to expect more than simple compliance. And so what you'll see here on slide 5 is just one snapshot of our results. Here you see our grade 5 ELA results from 2017 to 2025 as measured by MCAS. You'll see that our grade 5 students in 2025 performed at levels below their pre-pandemic peers on MCAS. And that's why the implementation of district-wide curriculum and adequate Tier 2 classroom supports is something that we focused on. It's something that we would hope would be able to accelerate our student results. And this is just one snapshot of the many data we look at that informs the district's emphasis on improving our elementary instructional practice and support. Moving along to look a little bit at what's happened in FY26, the Winchester Public Schools have continued implementing a number of strategic changes that align with both K-12 best practices in our country, as well as things that address long-running community needs. And so I'll highlight 5 focus areas, one of which I'll come back to later, which is the K-5 literacy curriculum. As many of you know, after a multi-year collaborative process, the leadership of the public schools as well as school committee accepted our educators' recommendation to adopt arts and letters as the district's new knowledge-building literacy curriculum. And so we'll expect to talk to you more about Article 28 in the future. Regarding K-12 math, we were able this year, thanks to an affirmative vote of town meeting last year, to add half-time math interventionists at 5 elementary schools in our district, and those interventionists were providing tailored instruction for students who need additional math supports. Unfortunately, with the budget cuts we anticipate for this year, funding for those positions is planned for elimination in FY27. Our K-12 curricular updates that we're hoping to also move forward are also in doubt, and funding for those is to be determined pending clearer understanding of our funding and the will of town meeting. In terms of school facilities, our Lynch Elementary School, which is a gorgeous new building that finally is serving the students of our Lynch community, is now open 20 years after the master plan and identified urgent and critical needs in that building. We were also able to use leftover funds from the Morocco Life Extension project to make some facility upgrades, primarily around flooring and configuration of spaces, and we're excited to report that we've been successfully invited into the MSBA construction process. We're working across the district on building maintenance and safety, including things like access controls, roofing, and HVAC upgrades. And the committee has also transferred care and control of the Mystic School, which currently houses a nonprofit, as well as our Winchester recreation programs, back to the town and the select board. Regarding collective bargaining, the committee has successfully negotiated new 3-year contracts with 4 of the 5 bargaining units of the Winchester Education Association. And in terms of instructional technology, some of you may have seen that we recently announced that a broad-based technology usage committee will be established. It was in response to recent research, the rise of generative AI, and stakeholder concerns, and will be working over the next year on those types of issues. Let me move on to our budget. This is a slide that's updated from one that I would have presented last year, but Winchester is not alone among Massachusetts schools in facing severe funding challenges, as Ms. Brady said during her presentation. Inflation has been well above 2.5%, which is the max established in Massachusetts' Prop 2.5. The rising costs of special education and transportation have also affected us. In parallel, state aid has failed to keep pace with these rising costs and needs of students. And so towns have been left to follow divergent paths. You see in the lower left a couple of communities, Arlington and Melrose, that have passed successful overrides. Obviously, Winchester joins communities like Malden in not being able to pass a successful override, and therefore we are facing some really painful decisions that we need to make this year in order to get our budget into balance. One of the challenges that we face is that nearly 9 in 10 of the Winchester Public Schools budget dollars fund educators and classroom support, the human resources that actually do the work with our students on a daily basis. 88% of the dollars spent in FY25 went directly to educators, their salaries and benefits, as well as our education support personnel. 12% of our budget is everything else. That includes things like out-of-district tuition, transportation, materials, supplies, et cetera, you name it. All of the other expenditures are in that 12%. So the highlight here is that Winchester primarily invests in quality educators and support professionals to support our students. And our year-over-year increases result primarily from our collective bargaining agreements, the negotiated salary steps and columns that our teachers have, as well as the legally mandated programming and services that we are required to offer to students. To bring you all up to speed on our timeline, there's been a sort of ongoing 1.5-year-long budget process as a result of both the preparation that we did for Springtown meeting last year, as well as the state of the town process.
Dr. Matthews, you've reached the end of your time. Do you need an extension?
I would love an extension of about 3 minutes, Mr. Moderator.
You got it.
Thank you. So over the past 1.5 years, we've engaged the community, starting back in October of 2024. The school committee then engaged in summer workshops to try and get our vision aligned, and then sort of rolled directly into the work of the state of the town. And the school committee's budget subcommittee was working in parallel that whole time. Obviously, you all sort of know what happened up to the special town meeting and the failed override vote, but what's happened since then is that the school committee has had to take the plans that were put in place, the alternate scenarios, and actually try to operationalize those in view of the collective bargaining agreements that we have with all of our employees. For certain budget lines in the district, there is cost growth above inflation, and we also face unanticipated expenses every year. That's sort of become the norm in Winchester and across Massachusetts since 2020. While we try every year to land our complex multi-million-dollar budget on a short, narrow runway with the goal of not having to ask for any supplemental funding requests, that also means we have minimal turnbacks. And as you'll see in the data that's shown on the right-hand side, one of the things that we continue to struggle with is the way in which our special education has changed. The profile of our special education placements have changed over the past several years. What you'll actually see is that there's been a slight decrease in the total number of special education students in the Winchester Public Schools, and also a decline in parallel with two things. One of them is fewer of our students are actually being accommodated solely inside of their classrooms, and also we've seen a 21% rise in the number of students who are being placed out of district at the district's cost. Now, what's interesting about this is that not only are we having to hire additional FTEs for the classrooms to support the IEPs that students are on, but we also are having to pay additional costs for those who are out of district, both in terms of the tuition and the transportation costs that the state passes on to us to actually get them to the schools that they're enrolled in. We've also, in terms of our finances, settled, as I said, 4 of our 5 collective bargaining contracts, but those, of course, were long-term negotiations that required careful balancing of our district and educator priorities. So tonight, I'm essentially coming to you to tell you that our work on the budget is still underway. The school committee has unanimously set a 5% year-over-year increase for our target for FY27, but this still requires educator layoffs and deferring all strategic investment. From FY26 to 27, we were already planning on enrollment-based reductions of 10 FTEs. That saves us about $1.21 million. We are additionally having to consider reducing 22 FTEs, eliminating positions including building-based ESPs or paraprofessionals, instructional support staff, including elementary math interventionists, district-wide content coordinators in certain areas, as well as data and administrative staff who are housed in central office. We're optimizing our class sizes, but also so far, with no further reductions, have been able to stay within our district policy guidelines for class size. New elementary registrations from this point on have been held for assignment to any available school. That means if a student registers in the district from a point before this meeting forward, they will be placed into a classroom at a school where we actually have space without having to add another section within the school that may be their neighborhood school. We're also expecting to roll out fee increases for high school sports, transportation, and nutrition, and have other areas under evaluation. And of course, we'll come back later to the foundational knowledge building curriculum in the form of arts and letters and the separate funding request for that. So I wanted to say thank you to all of my colleagues, to Stephanie, to Karen, to Tom, and to John, who's our newest member, also to our district leadership, to Dr. Hackett, Dr. Elenema, Mr. Marin, and Mrs. Salguez. And I just wanted to, in the spirit of some of the other announcements that have been made, some of you may be aware that Ms. Lori Kirby, who's been with the district for a number of years, most recently serving as assistant superintendent, previously as principal of the Morocco School, and as an educator in the district, has announced her retirement at the end of this school year. So we thank Ms. Kirby for her amazing service to the district over a number of years. She noted in her message to staff that she spent almost her entire career in Winchester. So we're tremendously grateful for her contributions over time. Next steps. Tomorrow, Tuesday, at 8 p.m., we know our friends on Finance Committee we had sort of had a little bit of poor coordination. They have their budget hearing at 7 p.m. We also had posted a public hearing at 7 p.m., so we're going to actually come into session and adjourn it until 8 and get started at that point. That is going to be on Zoom. You can type in this bit.ly link to actually get to that hearing tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Happy to take, it's going to be a dialogue and forum, happy to take any town meeting member questions. On Friday, you will receive both our virtual budget book, our budget presentation, as well as a budget memorandum from the school committee and WPS leadership around our budget. And of course, as always, we ask for your continued support of Winchester's learners and educators in this challenging year. Happy to take any questions via email and look forward to talking to you more over the coming sessions of town meeting.
Thank you very much. That concludes our reports. It is moved and seconded that the reports of town officials, boards, committees, and commissions be received and filed. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Article 2 is part of the consent agenda, so when we return from our break, we're going to start with Article 3, the report of the Planning Board. Town meeting members should note that the proponents of Article 4 and of Article 5 amended the language of their proposed bylaws last week. The amended language was posted on the town meeting website and mailed to members. Last week, due to the state holiday, It did not get out in time to satisfy the 7-day notice requirement, so the chair will take a motion to postpone Article 4 and Article 5 to a time certain. That time, first order of business on Thursday, April 30th. Do I have a motion? A second? All those in favor? The motion carries. Now, in accordance with our bylaws, we'll break to conduct our precinct meetings. Each precinct has been assigned a meeting room, and those are posted outside. It is 8:08. I want everybody back at 8:30. Thank you. Springtime meeting will now be in recess until 8:30.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alan Iden, and you are watching WinCam's coverage of the first session of Winchester's Spring Town Meeting 2026 here at the Winchester High School. Town meeting has just gone into recess as per their rules to have precinct meetings and appoint new members if precincts are short. So let's recap what we've seen so far. Our moderator, Phil Frateroli, called the meeting to order at about 7:10. The Girl Scouts did their usual ceremony, posting the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. The moderator remarked on 3 prominent town members that we've lost in the past year since the last fall town meeting. There being Officer Kevin Mon, who served for many years as the safety officer of the town. John Lane, for 50 years, ran Lane's Funeral Home, and Bob Johnson, a town meeting member for 43 years. There was a moment of silence to recognize their passing. Also for recognition was the recently retired Assistant Town Manager, Mark Toogood. He remarked on his 43 years of service to the town of Winchester. There are 13 items on the consent agenda. Those items are not expected to have any debate, although a town meeting member could pull it off the consent agenda, but they are assumed to be not subject to debate. So, as usual, we started off with the first article was the report of the town officials. We heard from Anthea Brady, the chair of the select board, talked about the personnel changes over the past year. The failure of the override, of course, in March meant a lot of work to balance the budget. There is a hiring freeze, in effect, including summer help for the DPW. Talked about the increases in health insurance, and that many other towns, including Arlington, had passed overrides that were actually as great or greater than the one in Winchester. We next heard from the chair of the Finance Committee, Derek Ross, who said it has been an interesting year. Said the town is on track to be on their fiscal 2026 budget, the budget that ends, of course, at the end of June this year. But there is a growing deficit. He's commented on the State of the Town Committee that got together to get a lot of town committees to work together on budgets. He said the town is working with a $171 million budget, but he said we're not in a bad place. They still have $900,000 to work through, which he said they were hoping to have ready for next Monday when the town meeting would start considering financial issues. He said we have $21 million of free cash, but the town does not want to go below $10 million, which would possibly trigger a degraded credit rating for the town. We heard next from, a little bit out of order, Chris Senior, our new town manager. He said town meeting is the high point of the democratic process. He's only been in town for 15 weeks, but he said the AAA bond rating is secure. The town has received $400,000 $400,000 in grants, and there is a serious need to find non-property tax revenues. He said there will be real impacts to some of the personnel reductions, but he also commented on the fact that it was a tough winter, and he thanked the staff of the town for getting us through it. Finally, we heard from the school committee chair, Tim Matthews. He said the new reality will affect students and parents. He said the school committee has come up with a new vision statement, but they said the school is still feeling the effects of COVID on student learning, the time that the students were not in school. He said the Lynch Elementary School, opened 20 years after the deficiencies in that building were detailed. He said the state aid has failed to keep up with the needs of the towns, and that 88% of the school department budget is in personnel. So they are also evaluating fee increases. And that is where we stand at the moment. Per Winchester's town meeting rules, financial articles cannot be taken up before the first town meeting in May, which will be next Monday. It does appear that there'll be a town meeting session this Thursday as well for I believe it's a planning board. Planning board report is coming up next. There will be another meeting here on Thursday. So that's where we are. We thank you for being with us. I'll be back with a summary of tonight's meeting at the conclusion.
so. Yeah. I thought you voted on them already. Now turn to Article 3 to hear the report of the Planning Board and place it on file. On their behalf, Chairman Jack Lamarche. No, I think we can go.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to introduce myself telling an anecdote about Jen Caffarella. I think everybody in this room knows Jen. Can you hear me, Lance?
Be careful.
A couple weeks ago, I called the town manager's office for some information, and Jen answered the phone, and I inferred that she has caller ID, because when she answered it, instead of saying hello, she said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "What are you talking about? Planning board chair?" I said, "Yeah, well, here I am." But thankfully, thankfully I've got a good team behind me with Amy Beliveau, our newest member, John Cortizas, Carrie Layton, and my predecessor who ran in the opposite direction when he handed me the gavel, Brian Vernelia. We are supported by a very able staff, Taylor Herman, our town manager, Ian Sexton, our assistant town manager, and Laura Fariola, the administrator. I want to give a quick shout out to Nick Rosettos for his 4 years of dedicated service to our board and to the town. We appreciated Nick's creativity and his dedication to historical preservation. Quick overview of what we do. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81A, designates the Planning Board as the board who is the one source of proposing zoning bylaw revisions and additions for town meeting review and approval. Secondly, we are the special permit granting authority for all applications for projects in the Center Business District, in the MBTA 3A Overlay District, and in the Main Street Mixed Use District. We also review special permit and site plan review petitions and make recommendations on those petitions to the Zoning Board of Appeals in all other districts. We also make recommendations on 40B projects for which the ZBA has exclusive authority. We administer subdivision control law as well. Last fall, you heard from my esteemed predecessor, Brian Vernelia, reporting on the board. I'm going to follow up on what's been happening in the last 6 months. Pretty much one thing, it seems like. 10 Converse Place. In late August, we received an application for a 6-story project at 10 Converse Place, which is where the, as you all know, where the laundry building, everybody's favorite building, exists. We had our first hearing in September and our last hearing in February. In between, in those 6 months, we had 10 public hearings, all of them standing room only. We heard hours of public comment from all sorts of people, including many of the people in this room. We had a lot of discussion, both among ourselves and with the applicant. We received literally dozens of emails and letters for which we are grateful. But the predominant theme of all those letters was knock off at least one floor. Bring it down to 5 floors or less, overwhelmingly. In fact, there was an active online campaign. I will leave that person nameless. Message was no 6th floor. You might have seen this lawn sign around town. Basically, when it came to the short strokes in February, we really had 3 choices, and I think our chair summed it up really easily for us, although the choices weren't easy. But we had The 6th-floor proposal from the applicant, 6 floors with 38 condominium units and 6 affordable units. Or we could go with 5 floors with 34 units, no affordable units, $2 million in an in lieu payment, and an additional opportunity for up to $1 million in profit sharing. Or we could deny the application and leave the situation as it is. And I don't think anyone in this room likes that. I know I don't. Ultimately, it was a very tough decision. I've been in town government for almost 17 years, and this was the toughest decision I ever made. And I know my fellow board members would agree. We were hearing some very persuasive arguments from all sides of the issue, and we knew that ultimately the decision we made had to be in the best interest of Winchester, and we knew that we were going to make a few people angry no matter which way we went. Ultimately, on February 27th, we unanimously approved the 5-floor option with 34 condominium units, 34 below-grade parking spaces, 2 ADA above-grade parking spaces, ADA accessible spaces, 2 commercial units. The one on the pond will be either a food shop or a coffee shop, something like that, and the second space will be on Mount Vernon facing the fire station. Because the building occupies about 2/3 of the 25,000 square foot lot, that leaves a lot of space left, and the developer agreed to make that green space open for public use. So it abuts the tri-community bikeway, and it's going to be very nice. It's going to plant trees and bushes and whatnot there, so it'll be a very nice space. What does this mean for Winchester in the long term? It means when the building's finally occupied, more than $500,000 in property taxes versus what we're collecting there now, about $49,000. Over the course of 10 years, it's estimated that we'll reap about $7 million in taxes. There will be $2 million plus for affordable housing, 34 new residences downtown, which means new customers for businesses, downtown businesses, and restaurants. There'll be funds in perpetuity to take care of the landscaping around the waterway. Bottom line, it's a big step forward in fulfilling the promise of the CBD bylaw, which was passed 11 years ago. It answers the purpose of this bylaw, which is to make the downtown more robust, to bring people into town to patronize the businesses, take advantage of the transportation hub that the new station represents. So what are we working on now? Earlier this month, we had our first hearing on a new proposal for the corner of Canal Street and Main Street at 910 Main. Everybody would probably recognize that as the pink building on the corner where Sakura Sushi resides. The proposal calls for a 3-floor apartment building with 14 rental units, 14 below-grade parking spaces, 1 or 2 commercial spaces facing Main Street, and you can see that in this illustration here. At the moment, we are working with the Design Review Committee. We would like their assistance in refining this design. While we are pleased to see that there is a proposal for this site, we're not entirely pleased with the design. We're looking for something that's more fitting for what is really an historic neighborhood. There's some historic houses right across the street. We've been hearing from the people on Canal Street, and we're very appreciative of their input. So we have also hired an architect for peer design, or we will be hiring an architect for peer review design, working with the Design Review Committee to get that design right so that it fits. What else are we working on? Last month, we hired a consultant by the name of Community Scale, who's going to assist us in an assessment of the site plan review and special permit procedures. Our goal is to produce comprehensive, clear, and legally sound amendments to the Winchester zoning bylaw, primarily to make it easier for all of us when you want to do an addition like I tried to do and you run afoul of the special permit and you're kind of surprised every time you turn around you got to go see another board or get some form filled out. Well, we're trying to simplify that. You still have to do it, but we're trying to make it simpler and easier to understand. The recommendations from the consultants are due by the end of June, after which we will begin public hearings through the summer with the goal of bringing potential bylaw changes to the fall town meeting. Next up, we anticipate some projects in the wings for Center Business District and the Main Street Mixed Use District. We're also going to continue a comprehensive zoning bylaw review, and starting this summer, we will be looking at the 2030 master plan to go through that, see where we've succeeded and where we haven't quite measured up, all with an eye toward starting to work on the next master plan, which is required by the state every 10 years. If you want to learn more about us, send us nice letters or mean letters or ask questions. You've got our address there, and you can watch us the first Tuesday of every month on Tuesday on WinCam. We start at 7 o'clock. Our next meeting is the 5th. Next week, we will be meeting with Community Scale for our second meeting with them. And if you are a policy wonk or you have trouble falling asleep, I urge you to read the zoning bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's moved and seconded that the report of the planning board be received and filed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing no one, the motion carries. Articles 4 and 5 have been postponed until Thursday. We move directly to Article 6 to see if the town will amend Chapter 6, Finance and Fiscal Procedures of the Code of Bylaws. On behalf of the petitioner of the Board of Health, Dr. Zwicky.
All right, good evening. On behalf of the Board of Health, I'm excited to present what I think is a nice warm-up article for town meeting. I assume it'll be particularly non-controversial, and I can do it in less than 2 minutes. The purpose of this article is to amend our bylaws and add a section to allow the Board of Health, in conjunction with the Health Department, to create permit fees for recreational camps for children located within the town of Winchester. And these will be annual fees, permits. They already are granted as annual permits. This is required by state law that the local health departments, working with boards of health, do review all of the practices around safety, health, criminal background compliance, on-site safety, immunization reviews, and all policies. It's all set by the state. Our health department, with Jen Murphy and her team, have been doing this for years. By some accident of history, the setting of the fees has always required a town meeting vote for changes. It hasn't been changed in many, many years. Currently, the fee is $200 per application. If anyone's curious, we permit about 5 to 9 camps each year, so it's not exactly a big moneymaker either, but it does take a lot of time for the staff of the health department. This article really is not to set the fee at all. It's just to change the bylaw such that the Board of Health with the health department can review fees on our schedule when we feel like it's appropriate to be reviewing and changing the fees without going back to a full town meeting vote for such things. I'm happy to take any questions about it, but I think it's a fairly non-controversial, fairly straightforward article, and I'm sure you will all support it and won't even need to use the clickers.
Do we have the recommendation of the Select Board?
The Select Board voted favorable action on Article 6.
Thank you. As this is a bylaw, a proposed bylaw, can we get the recommendation of the Committee on Government Regulations? Well, I can see them coming, so I guess.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you to the members. I'd like to take just 30 seconds to give a quick update on COGR and what we do. There was some confusion over the last year or so about the mission of the committee, but what we are really charged with doing is getting feedback from the town, looking at the articles from a legal analysis, administrative, and operational analysis. So look at those impacts and come up with a recommendation. We're not charged with voting on a recommendation. If we like the article or not. It's really a technical decision, and that entails review and analysis from the sponsor of each article as well as impacted stakeholders. On Article number 6, we voted 8-0 favorable action. Thank you.
Thank you. What's your name? No, I know.
Steve Boksansky, Precinct 4.
Thank you. Would any town meeting members like to be heard on this article? Okay, I'm getting the sense the town meeting is ready for this question. It's moved and seconded to approve Article 6 as written in the warrant. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Article 7. To see if the town will vote to impose a local room occupancy excise tax under GL Chapter 64G, Section 3A, at the rate of 6%, to take any other action related thereto, on behalf of the petitioner of the Select Board Member Paris Bayani. Actually, there's no slide on this.
No slides. This is a straightforward article. It came out of the State of the Town analysis. We had a work stream I think everyone is familiar with. It was number 3 that my colleague Michelle Pryor led, which was about trying to find additional sources of income that are beyond our property tax levy. So we did a lot of research. In one conversation that we had, like a 90-minute debrief with the Belmont Select Board, they pointed out to us that we are their only peer that does not have a local occupancy tax. Pretty obvious why we do not have a local occupancy tax, because we do not have a local hotel. But it turns out, as they pointed out to us, that we do have Airbnbs and Verbos operating in the town. And so the state charges 5.7% as a tax to them. We are allowed to charge an additional 6%. Again, almost all of our peers do so. The state is already collecting the tax revenue. And when we got in touch with the Department of Revenue, we said, if we were to implement a 6% tax, how much would it raise for the town of Winchester? And we took some bets on that. My colleague, Michelle, thought it would be $50,000. She was the bull. I said $30,000. I was the more in the middle. And Stacy voted, don't get your hopes up. Stacy won. The number will be close to about $14,000. We figured we're doing a lot of these through Select Board authority. This is one that requires town meeting approval, and so we figured we might as well go ahead and bring it forward. So with that, I hope you approve this motion.
Did the Finance Committee rule on this? Vote on this?
Finance Committee voted 7-2 in favor.
Thank you. Does any town meeting member want to be heard on this question? Okay, we'll move to the vote. It's moved and seconded that the town adopts Mass General Law, Chapter 64. You want to go? Please state your name and precinct for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dorothy Simboli, Precinct 6. I just have a quick question. Does this also apply to ADUs that are rented out?
Mr. Bagnani?
It would not apply to an ADU that is leased. So this is short-term occupancy. If somebody has an ADU that they use as an Airbnb or a Verbo, it would apply the same as a room in their house. But if they leased it for 6 months or 12 months, it would not apply.
One more follow-up question.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. So what is the time? What's the time frame? Like, so is it a 30-day? Is it 6? Like, what qualifies a short-term rental? Thank you.
We can get you the exact number, but it's relatively short. I think it's 30 days. Okay. Is the short-term rental.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other town meeting members want to be heard? Okay, it's moved and seconded that the town adopts Mass General Law, Chapter 64G, Section 3A, and establish the local room occupancy excise tax at a rate of 6%. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. The motion passes. Article 8. It is moved and seconded that the town vote to amend the water and sewer rates currently in effect in accordance with the Chapter 7, Section 3 of the Town of Winchester Code of Bylaws. All bills for consumption on or after March 1st, 2026 shall be in conformance with the following rates as printed in the warrant. On behalf of the petitioner of the Select Board Chair Anthea Brady.
I might have to stand on my toes. I was told Celtics in 5 and go Fleet, so I apologize for earlier. Thank you. Welcome, oh boy. All right, so welcome new town meeting members. This is the article that everyone referred to it's just me, just kidding. So water and sewer is a separate enterprise fund in the town. It's sort of separated from our overall municipal budget, so it just keeps the revenues, expenditures separate. It allows any surplus revenues to come in to be held as retained earnings, and it covers our water, sewer, stormwater drainage costs kind of as a whole. So what does that mean for water and sewer expenditures? A lot of that goes to MWRA assessments. So while we have a reservoir over in the Fells, we also do use a lot of water from the MWRA over the course of the year, and so we get assessments from them for our water usage and also in sewer meterage of sewer that's used. We have operating expenses. Those are just our personnel and expenses, so the day-to-day staff. We have debt service and some indirect costs, so insurance, benefits, things that happen at the legal or comptroller or HR's office. So how do we fund that? It comes from our water and sewer revenues. Many of you are familiar with those. They are quarterly bills. You have a $35 service charge, and then user fees, which are variable based on how many units of water you used, and that is obviously variable based on the weather, and especially in the summer months. And we also have the Chapter 110 tax levy, which shifts our debt service from the enterprise fund to the tax levy and is excluded from Prop 2.5. So this is the time of the presentation where I tell you about something terrible that has befallen me in my water bill over the past year, which would be, I know enough about plumbing to know that I shouldn't fix something, but I'm confident I probably can, so I can't. The sink explosion did not bring our water bill up all that much when I looked at it, but what you see in the most recent Brady family water bill is $35 in user fees and somehow only 14 units of water and sewer, despite the water that literally hit the ceiling when I tried to fix the drip. Where that bill goes, so what that bill contributes, $52 to MWRA assessments, $18 to operating expenses, $13 to debt services, and $11 to indirects every quarter. So yeah, here we go again. We are here, we are between 4 and we will be at 5 in just a few minutes. And what happens is that the summer happens, and that really drives our water use. The select board gets an update in the fall on usage and rates and kind of preps us for what's to come and gives us a sense of where we are in terms of our water and sewer budget. We get a preliminary update in February. We hold a water rate hearing in March. We had a record-breaking number of speakers, and check with me later. I promise you like a cookie or something if you know what the number was if you weren't in the room. And then we come here to vote on this. So I do encourage folks to stay tuned and attend our hearings because interesting stuff happens. So summer, we can't predict the weather. I could not have told you in June of last year, which Saturday, if you can't read it, I'm going to read it for you because I hear giggles. Saturday is the 7th day of the week according to the international standard ISO 8601, traditionally recognized as the day it rains in Boston. Falling between Friday and Sunday, it marks the start of the weekend in many cultures and is commonly associated with religious observance, social plans, and a high likelihood of soggy sneakers somewhere along the Charles. If you are on the fields committee, if you have kids who play spring sports, it rained every Saturday, and then it stopped. And then we had this beautiful sunny summer, and everyone needed to water their lawns and tend to their plants and put the sprinklers on because it was a really nice summer. So we just, even months before, cannot predict what's going to happen. So sort of how we end up funding water and sewer enterprise with those fees year to year is we come with a proposed rate for the next year and kind of a plan for the out years of what we're going to do. And so this year what we're bringing is a proposed plan to increase water and sewer rates by 7%. And while it seems like, okay, we're increasing them again, it's actually in line with what we said we would do for FY27 back in 2024, just about, back at 23 town meeting, and it's below what we anticipated in spring 2024 and spring 2025. So we are seeing that while we're increasing the amount of water consumption in these dry years, that is contributing to what we have in the water and sewer fund, but it's pretty lean. So you can see our sunny years, the years where we're doing a lot more water usage in the summertime, but our expenditures are increasing year over year, and our user charges and kind of what we're putting in as revenues are increasing, but they're still not putting us that far ahead at any point in time. So someone asked when we did the town manager's hearing, okay, so what is this actually used for? And I will say for a lot of water things, you don't notice it. And then if you do notice it, that's probably a problem. So from the retained earnings that we hold is planned to a vehicle for the water manager purchase and a water and sewer utility vehicle. We also have our MS4 permit compliance. For capital, a number of upcoming borrowings. The top half of your screen are sort of planned borrowings. You can just see the cost of water main replacements, sewer infiltration projects, and then some borrowings that we have down below, Woodside Road, South Reservoir Dam, which is a pretty big one, and a handful of other projects. So that's kind of what the capital expenditure side of water is. So in practice, what does a 7% mean? If you hit the jackpot on the bill like we did, despite the leak, quarter to quarter, about a $4.50 difference. I'm not always so lucky, so if you're the average residential user, about a $16 difference in the bill. Quarter to quarter, for commercial, that goes up to $50, and then for the average irrigation user, it's $68. So if we increase my water bill, assuming that fixing the sink has decreased our consumption because it was dripping, we're going to have, same user fees, a slight increase to the rates for water and sewer. That brings it up a couple dollars, and then that increase to the bill goes to $2 more to the MWRA assessments, another $1 to operating expenses, and some change to debt services and indirects. So we hope you will join the select board in voting in favor of this article to increase water and sewer rates by 7%. And this is just to give you a sense really of what happens as we do that to the retained earnings impact. Year over year, we do have to work hard to increase this to make sure that we stay within our targeted range of retained earnings to be able to continue with our water and sewer program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the select board voted 5-0 in favor of this article. Are there any boards and committees that voted on it?
I wasn't going to share my water bill, but we voted 7-2 in favor of this. We also asked if we could re-look at the 3-year plan again. I know there's been, although it looks in line, we just feel it's a good exercise that we did a couple years ago, and to refresh that. And I just also thought it was worthy bringing up the folks that were against it was just in theory of this being a profit-making endeavor. So we do have a surplus this year of close to $1 million. So thanks.
Thank you. So we'll open it up to questions from town meeting members, beginning with Mr. Jarius.
Good evening, town meeting members. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Dave Jarius, Precinct 8. When the service fee was first instituted many, many moons ago, I rose and asked what the service fee was based on. At that time, I believe there had been an external consultant who had met and come up with a number. And it wasn't apparent to me how that number was reached, and I asked the select board if they could come and provide more information, and I'm afraid that may have slipped through the cracks. So I'm still wondering why the $35? What did that number come from? Why, if the cost of maintaining our system has gone up, which I presume it has, and the service fee is presumably supposed to cover the fixed costs of the system. I should note in my water bill, the service fee has always been much higher than my actual water usage, so that's as much as I'll share about my bill. But I'm still wondering why the $35? What is a reasonable amount which will actually ensure that we have a well-maintained system? I've heard anecdotally that there are a number of water meters in town which are not working properly. And so I would, encourage the board to come before the town meeting and explain the state of the water sewer system and where that number comes from. Thank you.
Ms. Brady? I just want to recommend to town meeting members to stay away from details about your personal hygiene when you're speaking to questions. Thank you.
So thank you for the question, Diab. Mr. Moderator, through you to town meeting. So the $35 fee is based on estimates that include the cost of operating sort of from the water and sewer side, the management of each meter and the work that needs to be done by water and sewer department annually for each meter. It's kind of an estimate divided over households. It's something that we've talked about on the board of, does it accurately reflect different size households or other things, which has kind of been tabled for discussion down the road. Because to answer the second part of your question about water meters that are not working, I'm looking to our DPW folks in the back, but there's a certain percentage of water meters that are pretty old. And we have a water meter replacement program where they're starting to phase out the older meters in favor of new meters, and that actually give you much more information and allow the user to have better awareness of their water consumption over time. But that's sort of an extended project. It's not an immediate fix because it's identifying those meters and going out and changing them. And I'll defer to DPW if there's any further clarification on that.
Bob Labossiere. DPW Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As it comes to our meters, we have a lot of meters. I shouldn't say a lot. We do have some meters that the radios don't work on, so we'll have to go out and manually check those. But I don't know of any that aren't working per se and not recording any water going through them.
Okay, thank you. What's your name and precinct?
Matt Grisbeck, Precinct 2. Quick question to weigh both sides properly. What happens if you vote unfavorably on this, meaning we don't increase this by 7% the cost of water and sewage? Just to have a full picture of what are the consequences. Is it risking our cash flow, or what's the problem?
If it fails, the rates would stay the same. Yep, the rates would stay the same. And sorry.
Yeah. So if this is voted unfavorably, the rates would stay the same. In that case, we have to dip into our fairly narrow reserves, and again, because we don't know what's in the upcoming summer. If it's an incredibly dry summer, we might be okay. If it's an incredibly wet summer, we may need to go sort of deeper into those reserves and then come back in future years with proposing a much higher increase.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else be heard? All right, Chair senses the town meeting is ready for the question. I think we can do a voice vote. We're going to do a voice vote. It is moved and seconded that the town vote to amend the water and sewer rates as read into the record previously by the chair. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Articles 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are part of the consent agenda, so we'll skip to Article 15. Michelle Pryor on behalf of the Select Board. Sorry.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I don't have any fun pictures for you other than a graph today, but this is Article 15, a motion to transfer funds from free cash to the General Stabilization Fund. First thing I will note, so we're going to make a quick motion to amend this $1 million down to $750. I'll do that at the very end. But the Mass Department of Revenue and our rating agencies, Moody's and Standards & Poor, recommend that general stabilization funds be maintained in a range of 5 to 7% of the overall budget. And that is a fund just like the Capital Stabilization Fund or the Health Insurance Stabilization Fund that requires 2/3 of a vote to appropriate funds out of. Free cash is a simple majority. So we've been encouraged by Moody's for years to raise the level of our general stabilization fund. We really haven't done anything deliberate in all those years, and we've historically maintained our sort of savings in free cash. So what does that look like now? On the far right is the $5.4 million in general stabilization fund. The orange is the $21,700,000 in certified free cash. That's the free cash maybe today, but by Thursday or next week, there'll be millions less of free cash. And then our undesignated fund balance is $22,600,000. So that's free cash plus some allowance that we hold on to for property tax abatements or the overlay fund. So the balance, if we were to keep 5 to 7% of our $163 million budget, we would look more like $10 million in savings that requires a 2/3 vote to be moved out of. And we'd keep about $18 million in free cash or undesignated fund balance. So the motion this evening is to ask town meeting to move, and I will go back to our language. We're going to make a motion to amend from $1 million down to $750,000 to move that from current free cash to our general stabilization fund. So trying to get these things a bit more in balance. Right now we're really high on free cash and really low on general stabilization. Select Board wants to be on a consistent feeding this fund in increments over the next 2 to 3 years to start to get them a bit more aligned and more in balance. That way, when Moody's looks at how much do you have to balance your budget, what do you have in reserves, we have a lot more that is protected as a stabilization fund, requires 2/3 vote to be moved out of, and in theory wouldn't be drained as quickly as our free cash can often get drained. So before I make the motion again, I'll give one more shout out for Article 1, Ms. Brady, and the survey that we want to do with voters after the override. So more to come on that, but we'd have to get through town meeting first. But I'll be working with Anthea to get that out in front of folks. So, Mr. Moderator, is the best way to make the motion of $750,000 and have Select Board second it, or have town meeting second it?
Well, it's your main motion, so I think the Select Board can second it.
All right. All those in favor, Select Board? Aye. Okay. So thank you, town meeting members. I know FinCom will come up next. Please support, oh, sorry, Article 15. I didn't update that. Whoops. Go back. Please support Article 15. Thank you.
Thank you. So you can switch to my screen. We've changed it to $750,000. Let's hear the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Although we're disappointed that we're lowering the number, we supported 8 to 0. We would actually, in future meetings, look to continue to grow to this. As Michelle mentioned, recommended that we actually have a higher amount that we currently have, but it is a journey, so we're okay with this first step. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll open it up to town meeting members now. On the question, Mr. Jurius.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hi again, town meeting. So, the Jurius Precinct 8. My first question is, why was it lowered from 1 million to 750K? Through the moderator to whoever wants to take the question.
Do you want to give us both parts of the question? Or?
Oh, the second part of the question is, had we had the recommended amount of money or the recommended ratio of monies in the past, would we ever have come close to draining free cash?
Ms. Pryor?
Okay, so the first one's easier. How do we get to $750,000? So when we did the motion book and we were thinking about this in State of the Town for several months, is starting to feed the General Stabilization Fund. It really had not had deposits for years. So we had $1 million. We thought that would be the number, override being successful or not. Then when the motion book came out and we're looking at, even before the FY27 budget gets voted by this body next week, we have $800,000 of current year budgets that will need free cash to supplement them. We had snow and ice go over by almost $500,000. We have personnel expenses in the fire department. We have other costs that are taking free cash from the current year budget. So we wanted to leave $250,000 more of free cash to address even the current year needs before we get to next year's needs, because we know we'll be doing, as FinCom mentioned, they'll be balancing the budget using more free cash. So that's the first question. The second question, if we had more in the General Stabilization Fund, would we have drained free cash? We would have, at some point, had our levels of reserves. We want to stay between 6 and 10%. So that General Stabilization Fund would count toward, right now we're about 6% of General Stabilization Fund. If it was all in that fund at the level that we want, maybe we would have spent free cash, or maybe we would have asked town meeting to give a 2/3 vote to appropriate out of that fund to balance the budget. So it's hard to know what we would have done, but it would have been available to us to spend, but it would have taken a 2/3 vote versus a simple majority vote to spend. Did that answer the question?
Not really, unfortunately, because what I'd really like to know is, will this, using historical data, will this shift in monies, actually affect the way this body works in terms of...
That would be the hope, that it will shift the behavior, and it will certainly make our rating agencies a lot happier to see that we have protected reserves that are not as variable and as accessible as free cash.
Okay, thank you very much. Further on the question, Mr. Restinato.
Hi, Enzo Ruscinato, Precinct 1. I guess I don't know if I have a question or a statement after that, because I had kind of a similar question. I mean, if I'm going off our FinCom cheat sheet that I was just given a little while ago, that $10 million is really the floor of where we would not want to, because of our reserve policy, not spend any less than that. Why wouldn't we have, it seems like the General Stabilization Fund should have basically that reserve amount, right? So that it doesn't mean that we can't spend it. We can always go lower if we have to, but it would require a 2/3 vote, which, by the way, if we're going below that $10 million threshold, we better have a 2/3 vote, because then you're basically in kind of an emergency level. So I guess that question through you, Mr. Moderator, to the Select Board to understand, why wouldn't we try to move this up instead of down?
Ms. Pryor?
We are trying to move it up. And so right now in that General Stabilization Fund, that cheat sheet that you had, Enzo, is if $10 million is our floor. Right now in that protected General Stabilization Fund, we have $5.4 million. With tonight's deposit, we will have $6.1 million. We're trying to get incrementally up to $10 million. And remember, every year that our budget grows, the amount that we have to reserve has to grow with it. So traditionally, in all of my years on FinCom and town meeting, I don't think we ever made a deposit to this fund. In 15 years, this is the first step to try to get it higher, but it will go from $5.4 million to $6.1 million, still short of $10 million, but we don't want to grab all the free cash that's available today just to lock it down. We have a lot of needs in this town meeting.
Thank you. Further on the question, Mr. Bargnani?
Yeah. Thank you. Paris Bani, town meeting member, Precinct 8, member of the Select Board. Is this on? I just wanted to echo what the last speaker said, and as well as what Chair Pryor said. If you think about how much free cash we have today, it's about $21.7, $22 million. What people often forget is the $5 million general stabilization. It gets virtually no attention. Our total operating reserves, which is what matters, is about 27 million. And so what Michelle is talking about, Chair Pryor is talking about, with the lower end of the range is getting that up to 10 million, we really should be at about 50-50. The state and Moody's expect us to be at 50-50. So we're taking 5 million. We have a very long way to get. I think the correct number is really about 13 to put into general stabilization. It should be half of the total operating reserves. That is all the guidance you will find from S&P, from Moody's, and from the Department of Local Services, from the DOR. So 750 is the start. Let's feed this incrementally. But I would hope that this doesn't become an article that 6 people in the room have heard of. We did programmatically put money in this fund more than 15 years ago, and then about 15 years ago we just stopped. So every year we should be coming back and putting money into this fund until it represents half of our total operating reserves.
Thank you. Further on the question, Mrs. Blackwell?
Megan Blackwell, Precinct 7. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the Select Board. Does the Select Board have a policy on the level of this fund, what it should be as a percentage?
Miss former current chair Anthony Brady.
Anthony Brady, actual chair of the Select Board. We do have a policy. The policy is that it's split 50-50 between the general stabilization and free cash.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other town meeting members? Okay. Since town meeting's ready for the question. It's moved and seconded that the town appropriate $750,000 from the free cash available in the treasury of the town and deposit it into the general stabilization fund. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. That brings us to Article 16. On behalf of the petitioners, Ken Pruitt, our Sustainability Director, Tom Hallcroft from the School Department, School Committee, and possibly a surprise third guest.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Court.
Right, we'll go forward.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. My name is Tom Hopcroft. I am here with Mike Betancourt, who's right in front of me, thank you, and Ken Pruitt to present Article 16, expanding solar in Winchester. When we talk about solar, people often think we're just talking about the environment, and cleaner air is important, and it does matter. But this article tonight is really a straightforward financial decision for the town. We're talking about literally building a power plant to deliver energy below market rates, thereby saving our community money that we can invest in teachers, firefighters, DPW workers, and other positions. With the failed override, you might be asking yourself, can we afford this? I'd submit that especially now, we can't afford not to do this. We'll show you how this project will save the town millions of dollars and be net positive from year one. Solar investments make financial sense, and there's urgency to act at this town meeting to get the maximum benefit. We stand to lose $2 million in federal tax incentives that are being phased out if we don't act tonight. We can capture a $1 million Climate Leader grant during the current cycle to support this project, and solar incentives are expected to decline, so the quicker we go, the more value we get. Net metering means that we can over-generate energy to offset our demand during leaner times, and by bonding the project, we have a predictable fixed cost while volatile energy rates continue to rise year over year. So how much financial sense does this make? As we'll show you, our projected net savings are actually greater than what appears in the motion book because the materials do not include the $2 million federal tax incentives and the $1 million Climate Leader grant paying down the debt. The total energy savings from solar generation is projected to exceed $16 million over the next 25 years. The total all-in cost to deliver the savings is about $8.7 million. This includes the initial purchase of the solar panels, the inverters, and the parking canopies. It also includes the debt service, operations, and maintenance. And we show in the small print there a 5% contingency if needed. And it's important to note that we're not asking for free cash, but rather bonding authorization. So this will come from our operating budget, creating a net reduction in the $2.2 million energy expense line. All in, we stand to net $7.3 million in savings over the next 25 years. This assumes that we act now at this town meeting so we capture the $2 million tax incentives before they're gone, and that we apply the $1 million Climate Leader grant to pay down the initial debt. And since we're bonding the project over the next 20 years, we'll see a six-figure net positive impact in our cash flow starting in year one, every single year for the next 25 years plus. This chart shows our net positive savings year over year. What you see is about $100,000 savings in year one, and the average is about $300,000 per year thereafter, which is more than 13% of the town's $2.2 million FY26 energy budget. You can see each individual project within this article represented in a different color. You'll notice that something happens between years 20 and 21. The high school and DPW sites are roofs, and so they're taken out of the analysis after 20 years because we have anticipated roof replacements at that time, but presumably a future town meeting would maybe put more solar back on. And you'll also notice that the canopy sites start saving more money at this time, and that's because the debt service ends after 20 years, so we'll only be seeing the energy savings and not making any loan payments at that point. It's also important to note that there will be engineering and public process before any of these are built, so if we encounter a barrier at any given site, we can modify the plans or drop a particular site if it no longer makes sense. I'll wrap up my part of this by saying that these projects are not speculative. They are based on a decade of actual performance data from installations right here in Winchester. We have 4 successful installations already generating real savings. These range from smaller rooftop systems at VO and DPW to larger installations at the high school. Our newest and largest is Lynch Elementary, which just recently came online. That's $55,000 that we're currently saving every single year, rather than sending more of our tax dollars to the utilities. To date, we've saved almost $250,000, freeing capacity for investing in education, public safety, infrastructure, and other town projects. These systems have proven themselves to be reliable with low maintenance needs for more than a decade. Given our fiscal situation, the project represents $7.3 million in savings that we just can't afford to leave on the table. At this point, I'll hand it over to Mike Betancourt. He can get into more of the process and the actual proposed sites.
Thanks, Tom. Town meeting, Mike Betancourt, Select Board. So what's before town meeting tonight is a borrowing authorization. What's been completed so far is a preliminary assessment to identify projects that might work. The next step after we vote favorable action on this is the town manager can sign contracts to proceed, and then we will move into engineering and permitting. And some of the projects that I'll show you, they may be altered, they may be even removed, but we think these are a strong list of projects, but they are conceptual and not final yet, and certainly we would welcome any comments from the public on them. So looking here at Winchester High School, we're going to do a parking canopy and rooftop project. For the parking canopy, the 25-year net cash flow is $890,000. A rooftop project over 25 years would net an additional $1.5 million. So there is existing rooftop solar on the rooftop at the high school right now, and this would supplement that and continue to complement our overall solar and energy saving strategy. The Vincent Owen School and McCarl parking lots are the next one. If you're not familiar with VO, this is actually the parking lot that's up on the hill, so it's not right when you drive in. It's one that you may not otherwise have seen before. The 25-year net cash flow there is $980,000. for the town. In McCall Middle School, near the fields, you can see there the net cash flow there is $897,000 that we would generate from putting a solar canopy there. The transfer station is another location for us to add 2 solar canopies. The 25-year net cash flow there would be $2.9 million. Those may move depending on when we do the final adjustments and evaluations and engineering, but we think this is a pretty good strategy right now. The DPW roofs is a little bit smaller of a project, but again, we're really looking at a whole suite to strategize to reduce our overall energy use costs over the years. So the 25-year net cash flow here is $142,000. So the timeline is, if we approve the warrant article, that will get us started and move things forward. At the beginning of July, we're going to make an initial 7% down payment. So we're going to purchase a portion of the panels, and that's required for the grants for us to move forward. We won't purchase them all right away, but we'll be working with Select to make sure that we comply with our federal tax credit. And then between July and December of 2026, the engineering and permitting of those canopies and those roof installations will happen. And then 27-28, the construction will happen, and we will apply the $2 million federal tax credit and the $1 million climate leader grant to reduce the debt. So we'll start off applying those immediately. So the question is, why now? And this is really the last chance that we have to save $2 million from expiring 25.5% federal tax credit, and also to ensure that we capture $1 million in climate leader grant funds before this cycle closes, and also to capture lucrative state and solar incentives, the SMART program, before they decrease, which we believe they will. And we can start saving, on average, $300,000 per year through this strategy. And here's a slide that we had up before, just to give you the final summary of everything. The total energy savings to the town over that 25-year period is over $16 million. The cost for us is $8.7 million, and the net financial benefit to the town over that 25 years exceeds $7 million. So again, this is a strategy that starts with a net positive impact for the town from year one. And really, it shifts us from the power purchase agreement strategy that we had used in the past to purchasing the panels themselves, which, as we saw with Lynch, those federal and state tax credits really make that work out for us, where we're reducing our energy costs and we're saving money long
You've
term.
reached the end of 10 minutes. How much more time do you need?
That's it. I think I'm done.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, town meeting.
Can we get the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
As I mentioned, we don't often always agree on everything. We had a very spirited discussion on this, and the FinCom voted 6-3 unfavorable with 2 abstaining. And some of the main reasons that were brought up by some of the members were just kind of the timing of this, where we are in terms of the budgeting and financial state of the town, the solar panel maintenance costs associated with this, and also the MPV calculation, and that it needed further looking into. So with that, we voted 6-3 unfavorable.
And for the record, school committee is in support. They're a co-sponsor, as is the select board. I'll open it up to town meeting members, starting with the Lion of Precinct 1, Bob Deering.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I was on the EFABC while we were doing the high school, and though we were not involved in the solar panels, we were involved in making an assessment if you could put solar panels on the gym roof. Is that where the solar panels are going to go, on the gym roof?
Mr. Pruitt?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the question. We did look into this. It's something we've heard before in terms of the gym roof. I'm going to move to this slide here. I was referred by a number of people to a couple of studies that addressed the gym roof. Both of those studies, in fact, found that solar arrays could be based on the gym roof, based on the existing reserve capacity of at least 21 pounds per square foot and maybe 25. But even if we didn't have those two studies, we certainly wouldn't move ahead and just site the solar panels on the gym roof without further study. Select Energy would, if we move ahead with this, will come out to the site and conduct a full engineering review of the high school gym roof and either move the location of the panels. They could be moved to different parts of the roof. If some shoring up is necessary, that can be done. And if it for some reason makes no sense, then we just don't do that part of the roof. We could make the parking canopy larger, but this certainly wouldn't be the end of the conversation.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to make it clear that we had a structural engineer, actually the structural engineer that actually was on the original high school when they were building it, and he had all the drawings from that roof. So all I'm just saying is that roof, there's structural drawings and documentation from an engineer that the roof would not carry that type of a load, putting solar panels on the roof. And one other quick question. The canopies, are they included in the cost?
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further on the question, Mr. Chimitz?
Peter Steinmetz, Precinct 5. When I was chair of the FinCom, which was before we put the first set of solar panels on there, we were pioneering the notion of planning on the rate of rise of the budget, and so I did some analysis based on the few years before I had before that year and looking on into the future. And the one thing that I discovered was that the only time we actually saved money against the 2.5% to 3.5% of annual rise that you always had, the only money we ever really saved on that was the energy work that we had done. And by that point, we'd saved something close to $1 million overall. So what you're looking at here is something very different, something we don't vote on very often. And this is a real savings over year in the money the town spends. Everything else we spend, either we're going out of business and we're not, or we're just spending what we're going to spend and we're voting on it because it's been put before us. This is really a difference. That's all I'll say.
Thank you very much. Further on the question, Mr. Jurius.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. G.F. Jurius, Precinct 8. I think this is a brilliant idea. I encourage everyone to vote for it. I would say it's a no-brainer, but obviously lots of brains went into this. So I have 3 questions. One is the parking lot across from Town Hall, often known as the Jenks parking lot. Seems like we could put a lot of canopies there. I'm wondering if that was considered. I know that the gritter operator is looking for battery systems distributed around the Commonwealth. I'm wondering whether these systems will be primed to have on-site battery storage, which would also make the town money. And I don't know, I'm not up on the technology. The idea of 25-year lifetime for solar panels is something that was floating around back when I was much younger. I don't know if it's improved. I'm concerned that if we don't set up some sort of a fund so that when the solar panels decide to go off to wherever they go off when they retire, that we have enough money to get the next generation in. So those are my 3 statements, questions.
Thank you.
3 to Mr. Moderator, to whoever wants them.
I'm sorry? There's a lot of people in line right now. I don't think we're ready for that amendment. Mr. Pruitt, can you answer the question?
I think so. There were quite a few there. I'll see if I can hit them all. So we do include funding for decommissioning the existing rooftop systems at year 21. That would make sure that we don't have an unexpected cost for doing that at that time. There isn't any funding proposed to then replace those panels. That would have to be a new appropriation at the time. In terms of the longevity of solar panels, the panels themselves tend to last an extremely long time. They tend to lose productivity at a fixed rate of about 0.5% per year. But solar panels installed in the 80s and 90s in some cases are still out there producing. What tends to fail first are the inverters after 10 to 13 years. And funding is included in this in the sum being requested from town meeting for inverter replacement during the time period. I think you had another question though. What was
the main one? Was Jenks? Was Jenks considered?
Oh yes, that was one of the sites we looked at. We looked at a number of sites. Most of them were buildings, and in almost every case, the roofs were actually too old. In the case of Jenks specifically, we looked at that, and for reasons that weren't totally clear to me, Select advised us that it wouldn't pan out financially. I think it was something to do with the distance they would have to trench to serve the load probably at Town Hall, and they advised against it. It wasn't totally clear to me why it didn't pan out financially as well as the other sites.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further on the question, Mr. Vernaglia.
Hi there, Brian Fernalia, Precinct 4. This seems like sort of a slam dunk for the town, but I just want to ask a really basic question. Each year we're going to have debt service, and each year we're going to have energy savings in dollars. Will the energy savings exceed the debt service every year?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes, it will. This slide here shows that. Yeah, so this shows net positive. Any color you see here is a dollar, additional funding beyond what we're paying in debt service. So we're paying for debt service and then also coming away with almost $300,000 per year in additional net savings.
Thank you very much. I don't see how we cannot vote for this, given that we didn't pass an override to save $300,000 a year is huge. So thank you very much.
You. Further on the question, Mr. Roeder.
Yep, thank you so much. Jason Roeder, Precinct 5. I'll make a very brief comment. First of all, I really appreciate all the work the State of the Town Committee did. One of the things they did is think about ways to generate revenue. I know many of us in town wish we had more commercial tax base, and this is actually one way that we can generate revenue for the town. You can think about cell phone towers or other mechanisms, but this is generating economic value through placing facilities in our town. And so this really is a net add to our financial situation. It also has a myriad of environmental benefits, but it also has just a straight financial benefit, as was noted earlier. I think this article is well thought out. Maybe not all of these projects will come to fruition, but many of them will. And so I very much urge you all to vote favorably on this article. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair just wants to remind everyone just to bring new information to the debate if you want to be heard. Mr. Golubov.
Yeah, Mariano Golubov, Precinct 5. So I was on the select board when we put on the PPA panels. What I'm going to say is this is not new technology. As a town, we have experience with the technology, right? We already have solar panels. I have solar panels on my house, on the roof of my house. I've had them for 10 years. They paid themselves off in 4.5 years. One thing I want to point out is in Article 12, which was part of the consent agenda, which we passed without even discussing, we took $143,000 out of free cash to supplement the energy budget for FY26. So we took $143,000 out of free cash. If we had done this last year, we wouldn't need to do that. We would have extra free cash this year if we had the solar panels. So absolutely, I agree. It's a slam dunk.
Ms. Simboli.
Mr. Moderator, Dorothy Simboli, Precinct 6, through you to Mr. Pruitt. Could you put the slide back up that showed the savings that we've had at Vincent Owen on the existing panels? I think it was like $6,000 some, yeah, almost $7,000 a year. So do you know, and I won't hold you to this, do you know if that amount that we've saved a year is in line or consistent with the original projections when we put that top on Vincennoan? And I'm just using Vincennoan as one example because that's the one that's been up there the longest.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We do know that actually all of the systems installed by Select so far, which is the first 3 on this list, have actually produced more energy than anticipated. And since those, we have fixed power purchase agreements with Select for these. Every additional kilowatt hour generated, does generate extra profit for us and also for the solar company. It's a different model where essentially we're leasing the systems. They're owned by Select, which is a little bit less lucrative per kilowatt hour than purchasing them ourselves, especially because we're going to have $3 million in financial incentives from the federal government and the state government. But yes, these have actually all exceeded, not by wide margins, but a little bit so far.
Thank you. Further
Thank
on
you.
the question?
I'm sorry, can I have one follow-up?
I'm sorry, your time has expired. Further on the question, please state your name and precinct.
Hi, my name's Elisa Hazan, Precinct 3. I think we all know that energy prices have increased significantly in the last few years, which is hard to predict. So is it conceivable that we actually save more than what your graphs are saying?
Mr. Pruitt?
I mean, given what's happening in Iran right now, I think that certainly is. It could happen. It's hard. I'm not going to try to predict the future, but certainly seems that way.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Roger Wilson, Precinct 1. Through you, Mr. Moderator, could I ask the Finance Committee what the problem is with this proposal? I'm confused that our Finance Committee on a proposal that the primary benefit is supposedly financial. What's the problem here?
Mr. Ross, what's the problem?
As I was reminded by one of our members, the Lynch is currently a negative MPV. There's, although these are estimates, there are costs still associated with things, as we discussed tonight, impacts to the roof. And again, during the financial situation that we're in, the committee didn't feel the timing was right for this, and that more time into looking to when this properly should go into effect was what they put off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baiani.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I will make a brief comment, and then I am going to ask Mr. Pruitt a question about Lynch, inspired by the last comment. So I think people remember, those of you who were on Fall Town Meeting, we had kicked off this working group last July. So we've been looking at this for almost an entire year when the Trump administration passed what they call the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, stripping back the subsidies. The Select Board, working with our Sustainability Director, Ken Pruitt, put together a working group. That working group was very cross-functional. It had the school committee on it. It had the energy management committee on it. Had the capital planning committee on it. And it had a representative of the EFPBC. And we dug into every aspect of this. People have come and gone from that group. Mike Betancourt obviously presented this evening, so he's taken a little more of a lead. Michelle Pryor and I have come off of that group. But that group has kept meeting, and it's looked at every aspect of this proposal. It's looked at, should we buy or should we do a PPA? Big debate around that, chose to go with the purchase approach. It looked at, can we do these on the gym roof? You saw Ken Pruitt quote the SMMA study and the Aberjona engineering study, which is the study that was referred to earlier. We thought we couldn't find that study. Somehow we found it. It's from 2018 and proved that both of the structural engineering analyses of this building's gym roof prove that solar is doable. And that actually overturned a little bit of what the conventional wisdom had been. We looked at it from the perspective of the green benefits. We looked at all of the different sites. And so what you see before you today is really a very well-vetted plan. It's about 11 months in the making, and it's really been a cross-functional team effort of all of the boards and committees that you would like to see as part of this. So I would just make that comment to the group that this is a well-vetted, thought-through plan. It is not too early. We came to you in the fall. At that point, it was too early. And what Tom Hopcroft and I said at the time was, this is going to come back in the spring. And in fact, here it is with all of the questions answered, all the details ironed out. So I'll just conclude with one question to Ken Pruitt on the VO point, since that was a question from the Finance Committee. Ken, if you could tell us, what was the initial projection of what we thought that system would cost, what it actually came in at net of subsidies, and NPV is negative maybe in year one, but what's our perspective of what the NPV of that will be over the life of that project?
Mr. Pruitt?
Yeah, I think you meant Lynch. Yep. I think we have a slide on. Yep. So this, knowing this might be a question because this is our biggest solar system, and you can see the top line numbers, and what we're estimating is that over the 25-year lifespan, this will return a net of $725,000 to the town.
Thank you. Did you, Mr. Betancourt? Okay. Mr. Nixon, these are the last speakers, and then we're going to have a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to pick up on the point that Paris just made and the quote from Mr. Pruitt, back in 2018, I was not on the EFPBC, but I felt I was at every meeting going through this analysis. And the quote that was shared is absolutely accurate, though it is a summary of a much more detailed analysis of that roof, which I'm not going to read tonight because our purpose at town meeting is not to engineer PV systems. But in conclusion of that analysis, much attention was paid on the consequence of having a raise on the roof, the collected snowdrift in a storm, and the added dead load. And in fact, what the recommendation from the independent team with SMMA's concurrence was that we could put solar panels on the roof of the gym, but in a much smaller area than what was initially proposed. And at that time, the team with Select determined the juice was not worth the squeeze, but that might be different today. So there may be a potential there. I actually rose tonight, I wanted to ask a slightly different question, recognizing that when we put costs out for solar systems on a roof, what's the age of the roof? What's the lifespan of the roof? So the roof over the gym, by my math, is somewhere around 9 or 10 years old today. At some point, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we were discussing the potential of solar at Ambrose because the roof at Ambrose actually turned 21 years old this year. And you may remember from last year, we've made some capital expenditures to extend the life of that roof by 3 or 4 years. I'd make the observation, the structural engineer for the Ambrose schools, the same structural engineer we used at VO, same engineer we used at Lynch, they have been very efficient and quick at turning around analyses, looking at putting solar on a roof. I'd like to sort of understand why Ambrose is not on the list, and if the board would welcome a friendly motion to amend to add the Ambrose Elementary School at 25 High Street. This wouldn't obligate us to do anything. It simply makes these funds available to study solar at Ambrose as well. And I think, Mr. Pruitt, you may recall 2 or 3 years ago there was a bill on Beacon Hill that actually looked to offset the cost of replacing roofs for schools if we were putting solar back in as part of that assembly. So I'm also asking, basically in the context of whether there might be some cost avoidance for a replacement at Ambrose connected with solar.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yeah, I think that would be the proponents. I see no technical reason not to include Ambrose in the analysis. If town meeting were to authorize borrowing of the amount listed in the warrant, we can, these projects have been analyzed so far, but there's no contract signed on them yet. And if Ambrose turns out to be a favorable location, we could either add that or it may be that another location doesn't pan out as we go through engineering and Ambrose takes its place. So I see no reason not to do it, but.
Is there a motion?
I'm happy to make a friendly motion to amend if the board would support it. I did note, Mr. Moderator, in the press, I think it was Ms. Pryor, acknowledged some of these ideas might not survive design and engineering. So if there's an option at Ambrose and it might take the place of another site, it might be a good opportunity.
Mr. Betancourt, do you want to tell us what the... Yeah. Is there a second on the amendment? Can we have the recommendation from the select board?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting, the select board voted unanimously 4-0 to support Mr. Nixon's friendly amendment.
Is there a recommendation from the school committee?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. School committee voted 5-0 in favor of the amendment.
Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment. The Finance Committee, do you have a recommendation? Okay, they're not voting on it. So let's take a vote. Take out your V voters. We're going to vote to amend the article to add Ambrose School. We're going to open the clock up for 30 seconds. All those in favor of amending the article to add Ambrose School, I'm going to have to refer to Ms. Menarche on what the address is. 15 Lake Street. No, it's on High Street. All those in favor vote yes. All those opposed, no. 30 seconds. Okay. Simple majority required, 143 votes in the affirmative. The motion carries. The main motion is now amended to include Ambrose School. Would you like to be heard on the question? Please state your name and precinct.
Susan McPhee, Precinct 3. I'm also the town's Energy Conservation Coordinator. I'm not sure it was mentioned that the Energy Management Committee voted favorable action. Also, all of our solar arrays so far have been successful in town. There have been little or no maintenance costs at all. Maintenance and solar, you basically put it up and forget it. So I think that the fact that there's an inverter built into the price and then taking it down at the end, those would be the only costs incurred. Schools throughout the state, there are over 300 schools with arrays, and there are no problems. In fact, right now, there was a big program in 2009, and the schools that got arrays in 2009 are looking to replace them. So it's been highly successful throughout the Commonwealth. So I encourage favorable action.
Thank you. Further on the question? This will be the last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, town meeting. Just two quick questions. It's kind of yes or no, and then a quick statement, and then we're done. What is the funding on this? Is it free cash? How we plan to fund this? And then the other question, if I can just ask them at the same time, is are there any warranties? How do we plan to fund this and then warranty?
Mr. Betancourt?
Thank you, Milan. So this is a borrowing authorization, so we wouldn't be taking money out of free cash in order to purchase the panels, but we would borrow in order to make that initial purchase, and then further on, and we would, once installation happens, that would offset the debt service on that. And as you see, even right after year one, we would start having net proceeds from the project.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Pruitt?
And regarding the warranty, there's an initial full parts and labor warranty for 1 year, which is helpful because often if something's going to happen, it happens, something significant, it happens in the first year. After that, there's a warranted production over the full 25 years. So if production from the arrays drops below, I think it's 85% or something like that, then they will replace panels as well. The inverters, as I mentioned, tend to stop functioning earlier, and you have to replace those. But that's in the O&M. The O&M costs you saw include that. So there's a multi-tiered warranty.
Okay. Thank you. So I have no issues with solar, just kind of put it out there. Oh, my name's Milan Chong, Precinct 4, by the way. What I just want to give some perspective, okay? Last year we said no to $8 million in borrowing for town hall. I've heard multiple year after year, how much it costs when you defer maintenance on buildings and stuff like that. So there's a huge cost that we aren't even considering, just kind of perspective in terms of the town. Also, one thing that's not mentioned on there, there's a quote that says that the roof wasn't an issue during my year, and the comptroller can confirm. I mean, we made, as a finance committee, a transfer to repair the roof on the high school because the solar was so heavy, it actually caused the roof damage. And it was an emergency thing, and they fixed it. My understanding is the roof on high school, if that part is a problem, then other parts may be a problem. We put solar. And then the last thing is, I mean, should we buy it because it's on sale? The net present value, by the way, for Lynch, when it was presented, and I don't know if Michelle's around, but she did present, Michelle Pryor, Select Board, presented a negative NPV. Can you confirm that? I don't want to put you on the spot, but a negative NPV for Lynch. So yes, if you want solar, that's not an issue, but if you want it because it's going to save us money, then that's not the case. Just think about it. I'm going to put in 8.7 million, and then after 25 years, I'm going to get 7 back. I'm like, and it, if you invest at 4.5%, it's $24 million. So do it if that's the case. Do it if the town hall is not a priority, but please don't do it because of the money that's presented here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Betancourt?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just quickly to finish up here, what we don't talk a lot about is a portion of our solar and energy saving strategy that is hiring a sustainability director, and the benefit that we've had with Ken Pruitt being in that position really is not just sustainability from a green perspective, but from a financial perspective as well. So when the Inflation Reduction Act first came out, we were told by staff that it could not apply to the Lynch building. Ken did a deep dive into it, new legislation that was horribly written, very difficult to understand. His deep dive is what turned into the solar project at Lynch, which is really the gold standard from our perspective. And to Milan's point, a lot of these projects do take a couple years before you're seeing the value from it. But part of our strategy is having Ken there, so when there are federal and state grants that we need to apply for that have us really needing to jump through a lot of hoops, we've got somebody to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anybody. There's nobody else on our staff that can handle that giant responsibility, coordinate with Select, and really make these recommendations to us. So the money that that Ken has saved us is close to $4 million since he's been in this position over the past few years, and it will continue to save us and our energy costs in our buildings in years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. We've already capped the speaker, so we're going to take the vote. Is it okay? Yeah, we're going to do a V voter. So I'm going to read the motion as amended. Moved and seconded that $7,943,000 is appropriated to pay the cost of acquisition and installation of solar panels at Winchester High School, 80 Skillings Road, McCall Middle School, 458 Main Street, Vincenowan Elementary School, 75 Johnson Road, Ambrose Elementary School, 27 High Street, the Department of Public Works, 15 Lake Street, and the transfer station, 15 McKay Avenue, all within the town of Winchester, included the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet the appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $7,943,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town, therefore, that the town manager shall be authorized to have oversight of this project, and that in accordance with Section 4-2 of the Town of Winchester Home Rule Charter, the town manager shall have the authority to enter into contracts and approve payments with respect to the project. All those in favor vote yes. All those opposed vote no. The voting is open for 30 seconds. No, it's not. It's not them. Oh yeah. Yeah. This is a 2/3 required because it's a borrowing authorization. Give the chart. I got one, Joe. $136 in the affirmative, 136 in the affirmative, 106 required to pass. The motion carries, and the article is adopted. We proceed now to Article 17, the report of the Capital Planning Committee. Roger, don't take this as an insult, all the people walking out right now. Well, I'm going to put it to town meeting at the end of it to see if we can do one more. After him? Okay. Just while everybody's kind of adjusting here, if you compare town meeting to the Ken Burns documentary, The American Revolution, we're about at the end of the third episode, which is the times that tribe. No, this is the times that tribe men's souls. This is like less than 10 minutes. It's up to you. Do you want to?
I got nowhere to go.
You got all dressed up for this.
I'm at your disposal.
Does it? Do you feel like it will help your articles to?
It'd be better to be contiguous.
Okay. All right. The chair will take a motion to adjourn for the evening. And a second. All right. We'll see you on Thursday night. My image wasn't.
Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Alan Iden here at the first session of Winchester's spring 2026 town meeting here at the high school. As you may have just heard, town meeting just adjourned for the night until Thursday. So let's do a recap of what we've seen and heard tonight. We started with the usual ceremony with the posting of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance with the Girl Scouts. We heard a tribute to three community members lost since fall town meeting. That'd be Officer Kevin Mon, John Lane of Lane Funeral Home, and Bob Johnson, a town meeting member for 43 years. Also paid tribute to Mark Toogood, the recently retired assistant town manager with 43 years of service to the town. As usual, we'll start with the report of the town officials. We heard from the select board. Anthea Brady, the chair, talked about the personnel changes. The failure of the override meant a lot of extra work to balance the budget. There was a hiring freeze, including summer help for the DPW, and referred to the increases in costs for health insurance. She also said that many other towns, including Arlington next to us, had passed overrides. Heard from the FinCom chair, Derek Ross, who said it was an interesting year. He said the town is on track to be on its FY26 budget, which ends, of course, in June, but there is a growing deficit. He said the State of the Town Committee got a lot of the town committees together to work together on the $171 million budget. He said the town's not in a bad place, but they still have $900,000 to work through before next Monday when we start considering, town meeting starts considering financial issues. He said we have $21 million in free cash. Does not want it to go. It definitely does not want to go below $10 million because it would affect the town's credit rating. School committee chair Tim Matthews said a new reality will affect students and parents, meaning the failure of the override. He said the school committee came up with a new vision statement, and that the school department, and students are still feeling the effects of COVID 6 years later because of the interruption in learning. He also said the brand new Lynch elementary school opened 20 years after deficiencies in the school were identified. He said the state aid has failed to keep up with the needs, and that the school department budget is 88% personnel. They are also evaluating some fee increases. Chris Senior, our new town manager, said town meeting is the high point of the democratic process. He's only been in town in this position for 15 weeks. He said the town's AAA bond rating is secured and the town has received $400,000 in grants. But the town also needs to find non-property tax revenue. and the town will begin feeling the real impact of personnel reductions. But he commented on the fact that we'd had a tough winter, and many thanks to the staff, especially DPW and police and fire, for getting us through that. After the recess, we heard a report from the planning board on the status of the Converse Place project and some other projects, and that they're going to be looking at a review of the town's zoning bylaws. Again, that was a report, so all these were reports and just passed as put on file. Skipped to Article 6 because some of the articles were on the consent agenda. Article 6 was to amend the Board of Health regulations to allow them to review rules for recreational camps here in town. That passed. Article 7 was a proposal to assess a 6% town revenue tax on Airbnb short-term rentals. So the state gets 5% now, and it would mean about $14,000 in extra revenue to the town. Also passed. Now, Article 8 was the proposal for the new water and sewer rates. Said that water and sewer is an enterprise fund, and that the mass water resources fees are increasing, as are the operating expenses. He said that it rains every Saturday. The observation was that it rains every Saturday in spring, then it's dry all summer. Water rates proposal increase was 7%, which would be about $16 per quarter on an average water bill without irrigation. That passed. Article 15 was to transfer funds from free cash to the General Stabilization Fund. The proposal was $750,000. The logic is that it takes 2/3 of a vote to take from that fund. This would make it move it up to about $6.1 million. The goal is $10 million for that General Stabilization Fund. That passed. Article 16, which dragged out quite a long time, was proposals about $7.9 million to install solar panels, additional solar panels, because the town already has some, at the high school, at McCall, Vincent Owens School, DPW yard, and the transfer station. We heard that would be revenue positive after year one, about $300,000 a year. And they also want to take advantage now to about $2 million in federal grants. This is not using free cash. This is a bonded. It would be borrowed, but there would still be a net positive effect even after paying interest on the bonds. They said we heard it would be about $7.3 million in savings over 25 years. A lot of debate on this. Not really understanding why there was so much debate, but there was a motion to amend it put forward by Chris Nixon to add the Ambrose School to that. He says the Ambrose School is now 21 years old, and that passed, as did the entire article to add these solar panels to town buildings. And we almost heard the capital planning report, and then town meeting decided it was too late, and that's being postponed till Thursday. So that's our recap of this first session of Winchester's Spring 2026 Town Meeting here at the Winchester High School. For all of us at WinCam, we thank you for watching. I'm Alan Iden. Have a good night.